Let's confront a reality that most dinar commentary ignores. The revaluation is not a singular event waiting to be announced, but a complex geopolitical and economic process that is already deep in its implementation phase, and the timeline for its culmination is directly tied to Iraq's successful navigation away from being a petrostate. The real story, the one you need to understand, is not about a magic number or a secret date, but about Iraq's brutal, practical struggle to escape the economic model that has both sustained and crippled it for decades. The 2025 Master Plan isn't a prophecy, it's a survival blueprint, and the dinar's value is the ultimate scorecard of its success or failure. While investors frantically search for RV intel, the true signals are being broadcast from Baghdad, Washington, D.C., and European financial capitals through policy shifts, banking agreements, and infrastructure projects that collectively form the most credible pathway to revaluation we have ever seen. This isn't about hope, it's about observing a nation methodically dismantling the very barriers that have kept its currency artificially suppressed. The acceleration you feel is real, but it's happening in boardrooms and government halls, not on secret bank screens. To see it, you must shift your focus from the speculative frenzy to the tangible, on-the-ground transformations that are rewriting Iraq's financial destiny, and these changes are creating a set of circumstances where a revaluation transitions from a fringe theory to an economic inevitability. The foundation for this lies in a seismic shift in Iraq's relationship with the United States Treasury and the international banking system. For years, the primary obstacle wasn't just oil dependency, it was a financial system seen as opaque, vulnerable to money laundering, and financially toxic. This perception forced nearly all of Iraq's substantial oil revenue to be held in U.S. Federal Reserve accounts, with dollars physically flown into the country, a system that fueled a massive black market and gave the Central Bank of Iraq little real control over its monetary policy. However, this is precisely where the most profound change is occurring. The strategic framework agreement between Iraq and the U.S. has evolved beyond security, embedding American financial technical expertise directly into the heart of Iraq's banking reform. The recent and critical integration of Iraq's banking platforms with international electronic systems like SWIFT is a game-changer of monumental proportions. This move is systematically reducing the need for physical cash dollars, making transactions transparent, traceable, and compliant with global standards like anti-money laundering and counter-financing of terrorism rules. Every successful electronic transaction that bypasses the black market doesn't just save money, it builds a verifiable track record of reliability. This track record is the currency of trust in international finance, and Iraq is accumulating it day by day. This trust is what will eventually convince correspondent banks in Europe and Asia to begin dealing directly with Iraqi banks in dinar, creating the organic international demand for the currency that is entirely absent today. This isn't a speculative future, it's an active, ongoing process. The Central Bank of Iraq is now actively engaging in these correspondent banking relationships, and while progress is measured, the direction is unequivocal. They are building the plumbing for a globalized dinar, and once that plumbing is fully pressurized and tested, the flow of international capital will necessitate a recalibration of the currency's value to reflect the new economic reality of a connected, compliant, and open Iraq. This is the master plan in action, making the dinar a usable, trustworthy international medium of exchange for the first time in its modern history. If the first front in this financial transformation is international integration, then the second, equally critical battle is being fought within Iraq's own borders, targeting the very structure of its domestic economy and the relationship its citizens have with their own currency. The historic reliance on the US dollar as a parallel, often preferred, currency for saving and large transactions has acted as a constant drain on the dinar's prestige and stability, creating a self-perpetuating cycle of weak demand for the local currency. Breaking this cycle is a cornerstone of the 2025 strategy, and the method being deployed is a multi-pronged assault on dollarization through both coercion and incentivization. The government's recent, and often controversial, crackdown on the use of the US dollar for personal and commercial transactions is not an isolated policy but a deliberate, calculated squeeze. By restricting dollar access for specific purposes and enforcing the use of dinar for local salaries, rents, and goods, the state is forcibly creating a captive, robust internal demand for its currency. This policy, while painful in the short term, is designed to re-anchor the daily economic life of the nation to the dinar, effectively building a solid floor of domestic utility that the currency must have before it can ever hope to gain strength internationally. This is complemented by an ambitious, state-driven push towards a digital and cashless economy, a move that is about far more than modernizing payments. The promotion of electronic wallets, government salary payments through bank transfers, and digital payment platforms is a strategic masterstroke for monetary control. It serves to formally bring a massive, informal cash-based economy into the regulated banking sector, giving the Central Bank of Iraq unprecedented visibility into the flow of money. This data is power. It allows for more effective monetary policy, better control over inflation, and a dramatic reduction in the size and influence of the black market. When money is digital, it is traceable, taxable, and manageable. This formalization of the economy directly increases the government's revenue base, which in turn reduces its budget deficit and lessens the pressure to print more currency, a primary driver of inflation. Furthermore, this digital shift is psychologically pivotal. It rebrands the dinar in the minds of Iraqis from a physical object of potentially volatile value to a digital unit of account that is stable, reliable, and integrated into the modern world. This fosters long-term confidence and discourages the flight to dollars. Simultaneously, we are observing the early, yet significant, beginnings of economic diversification that move beyond oil. The 2025 plan allocates substantial investment towards agriculture, tourism, and small to medium industries. The success of even a few of these projects is not just about GDP, it's about generating non-oil exports. When Iraq can export wheat, dates, or manufactured goods, it earns foreign currency from a source other than crude oil. This diversifies the nation's foreign reserves and strengthens its balance of payments, which is a fundamental pillar of currency strength. A country that only exports one commodity is forever tied to its price volatility, but a country with multiple export revenue streams presents a much lower risk to global investors, making its currency a more attractive asset to hold. The combination of these internal policies, forcing domestic dinar demand, digitizing the monetary base, and seeding alternative industries, is creating a powerful internal momentum. It is building a self-sustaining economic ecosystem where the dinar is not just a symbol of the nation, but the indispensable, functional engine of its daily commerce and long-term investment, a necessary condition that must be fully met before any significant, sustainable revaluation can be officially triggered and, more importantly, maintained without immediate collapse. The convergence of these internal reforms and external financial partnerships ultimately builds towards the final, and most critical, phase of the master plan, passing the ultimate test of global confidence and triggering the structural mechanisms that would allow for a formal revaluation. This is not a decision that will be made in a vacuum based on ambition. It will be a calculated move sanctioned by international bodies like the International Monetary Fund and ratified by a global market that now views Iraq as a credible economic partner rather than a perpetual risk. The true acceleration we are witnessing today is in the alignment of these stars. The previous barriers, a fully dollarized domestic economy, an isolated banking sector, and a single-pillar revenue stream, are being systematically dismantled piece by piece. As the digital payment infrastructure matures and captures a greater share of the economy, the Central Bank of Iraq gains a powerful new tool: precise control. They can monitor money supply velocity in real time, apply targeted monetary policies, and demonstrate to the world a level of financial governance that was previously impossible. This demonstrable control is the final report card needed to justify a new exchange rate. Furthermore, the success of economic diversification projects, even on a modest scale, begins to reshape Iraq's fundamental economic metrics. As non-oil exports grow, even marginally, they improve the country's current account balance and build a more resilient foundation for the national budget. This reduces the perennial fear of a post-revaluation collapse triggered by a sudden drop in oil prices. The government would no longer be betting its entire existence on a single commodity, thereby de-risking the revaluation event itself. The most significant near-term indicator to watch is the full and complete elimination of the gap between the official exchange rate and the black market rate. The central bank's current policies are laser-focused on achieving this exact goal. When these two rates converge and stabilize for a sustained period, it will signal that the domestic market has fully absorbed the dinar, that confidence has been restored locally, and that the destructive arbitrage opportunity has been extinguished. This convergence is the green light. It is the concrete signal that the internal economic reforms have achieved their primary objective. At that point, a revaluation is no longer a speculative gamble but a logical next step to reflect the nation's true economic potential and its vastly improved financial stability on the global stage. The revaluation, when it occurs, will likely be framed not as a windfall for currency speculators, but as a necessary step for Iraq's continued development, a move to reduce the cost of imports for critical infrastructure projects, to lower the national debt burden denominated in foreign currency, and to finally cement Iraq's sovereignty through the strength of its own currency. It will be the culmination of the 2025 Master Plan, the final piece of a puzzle that has been years in the assembling, moving the Iraqi dinar from a subject of niche speculation to a legitimate, globally recognized instrument of a reborn Middle Eastern economy. Now, your role in this process is to become a forensic analyst of these developments, not a passive recipient of information. I challenge you to move beyond this video and become a direct observer of these macroeconomic shifts. Do not just listen to me or any other commentator. I want you to see the evidence for yourself. Go to the website of the Central Bank of Iraq and read their latest monetary policy statements. Visit the International Monetary Fund's page on Iraq and read their latest staff reports on the Iraqi economy. These documents are dry, complex, but they are the unvarnished truth, free from hype and speculation. Your mission is to build your understanding on this bedrock of primary source data. So, here is my direct request to you. In the comments below, I want you to share one key takeaway you have from this analysis and one specific question you now have about the process. Are you convinced by the digital transformation argument? Are you skeptical about the timeline? Do you want to know more about the role of the World Bank? Your questions will not only help you clarify your own understanding but will also shape the content I create for you next. This is a dialogue, and your intellectual curiosity is the fuel for it. If this deep dive has provided you with a structured, logical framework that replaces anxiety with understanding, then you know how to support this channel. Like this video to tell the YouTube algorithm that this is the kind of substantive, evidence-based content the world needs. Share it with other serious-minded individuals in your network who are tired of the noise and hungry for a coherent narrative. And most importantly, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We are building a community here focused on clarity and analysis, not frenzy, and our next videos will be drilling down into each of these pillars: banking reform, digital transformation, and diversification, with even more granular detail. The story is unfolding now, and I want you to be fully informed every step of the way. Subscribe now, and let's continue this journey together.